Hi everyone, and welcome to Design with Nicole Nowosad. Today we are going to look at the element of stitching a design onto your scrapbook layout. It's really easy to do and you don't need a lot of extra tools. So I'm going to create this stitch design here on the left side of my page, and it's super easy, so let's get started. So the one thing I'm using here are some circle punches. I have a 1-inch punch as well as a 1.5 and a 1 3/4 inch punch. I'm also pulling some papers here from a paper pad from the Chamel Go Now Go collection. I'm going to use a lot of different embellishments to go with that as well. And I'm just trying to choose a variety of different colors for my page. I really want to have that kind of rainbow type color palette without it being overly girly. But I am trying to grab different colors and patterns from the paper pad. I may not use all of them, but I want to have all my options open at this point. And I'm not really sure where I'm going quite with the design at this point, so I'm just going to punch some circles both in two larger sizes and a few of the small ones, just so I have something to play around with. And I'm going to do that from all the different patterns that I've chosen. And I'm just going to line them up kind of in the order that I want to use them, so that later on it's easier to kind of get things going once I get things onto the page. And I'm grouping similar colors together as well, like the reds and the pinks. I'm going to keep together so that it's easier just to kind of layer things together. Now I know I want to have my photos here on the right hand side of the page, and I've decided that I want to take the larger circle and then the medium sized circle and layer those together. It's kind of hard to see here, but I have layered the medium size over top of the large. And then I'm just playing around with the placement of where everything is going to go and what papers I end up wanting to use, and I end up leaving a few of them out. You'll notice I didn't really measure anything at this point. Really, there's not a lot of measuring in this layout because you have the circles there. We're kind of doing a bit of a whimsical look. The only thing I am doing is going to use this ruler here to line all the circles of similar size up together so that they're, in an even line on the page. Because of the nature of what we're doing, where we're going to pop these circles up, you really won't notice if anything's off by a tiny little bit, but certainly you can feel free to measure that out if you'd like to do so. So I'm angling the patterns a little bit if possible, just to create some interest. You can really notice it there on the yellow grid pattern that I've angled the different pattern of the grid, so you can get a little bit more visual interest once you get things sewn down onto the page. And again, just line everything up. Now the one thing I do want to mention is when you're sewing, you don't want to use a lot of adhesive on your paper. I'm just adding a tiny little bit of this tape runner adhesive. It gives out 1 or 2 tiny little strips, and that's what I'm using down the center of each circle. Because once I start running it through my sewing machine here, this is one from Janome. It's called Janome & Home. It's a really great paper crafter sewing machine. And I'm just running a stitch straight down the middle of each of the rows of circles. If I use a lot of adhesive, I'm going to really gunk up my machine, and I don't want to do that. And secondarily, we really want to pop those circles up later on, so we don't want to add a lot of adhesive to make that difficult. Now if you want to and you're worried about your ends straying in the back, you can add a little washi tape just to secure them in place. And then you can go ahead and just pop up those circles. You can see if you use a lot of adhesive behind those layers that you would definitely have a problem. You'd rip your paper when you went to pop those up. So that's why it's really important you don't use a lot. And never ever use wet adhesive underneath anything that you might sew on, as that really will clog up your machine in a pretty bad way. I am adding some foam adhesive behind the top layer of the layered circles, and that's so when I put it in a page protector later, I'm still going to maintain that puffy three-dimensional look, but it will flatten slightly because it being in the page protector. I'm going to add a little bit of paper in behind my photos just because needed a little more touch of blue to go with my sun shirt. So I thought this nice thin blue stripe on this pattern paper would work perfectly. And so I'm just going to measure off a couple different mats out of that paper and layer one behind each of the photos. And when I place these down on the page, I'm going to do my best not to keep them even, mostly because I find whenever I try to measure something up completely equal and level, that it often is off by just a tiny amount, and it's so much more noticeable than if I put a little bit of a tilt to it. So I'm going to tilt my photos for a couple of reasons. Those are 2 of them, and the third reason is because everything on my left side of my project is so straight. It's kind of fun and gives a little more interest to the page if on the right hand side they're a little quirky and off center. So now I'm just going to go ahead and get a really basic title put down. I'm going to use these glitter thickers. Makes it really simple, and I'm just going to use these on a ruler and line them up so I kind of get them where I want them. And it also allows me to kind of play around with where I want to put it on the page, and if I want to add anything above it or below it. I have two rulers, as you can see, and so I'm going to use these tiny little letters to start off my title, and then use the glitter thickers to finish it off. And it also helps me keep everything straight. Again, in this case, you'll notice that some of the letters are a little bit tilted off in the end anyway, and that's okay. But it does help, gives you a good idea of where you can place your title in a really quick way instead of lining it up one by one. So now I'm just going to play around with my layered circles, and I want to add some similar color embellishments to the centers of most of those circles there on the page. So on the circles that I did not pop up, I'm going to add a few little bits here. I have these wood enamel epoxy buttons, and then I have these super fun puffy hearts that I'm going to add to the bottom of each of the 3 rows in similar colors to what I used to stitch beside. I'm also going to add some of the buttons to the smaller stitch circles that we didn't pop up, just to add a little bit more texture, and then a few puffy stickers and a glitter heart here beside the title. And then I used one of the gold asterisk glitter stickers from the thickers just to add to my little yellow area. Now I want to create another little grouping here behind my photos to the top right of the page, and I want to do a little bit of embellishing to that with my sewing machine. You can very easily take any embellishment and stitch it. Even chipboard works really well through a sewing machine, provided you go slow enough. And I'm just making like a little cluster here with some washi tape that's in the sticker booklet, as well as these stickers. And I'm just going to add them here to my photo, and then I'm going to take my sewing machine and just add a little bit of stitch detail. Had you not known that you're using your own sewing machine, you might not notice the stitch detail. You can see how much of an impact it really makes on your page. The stitching adds a nice group of texture, and it really allows you to have that 3D embellishment that you really cannot buy in any store. And just as simple as a few small tools and a little bit of thread, it's like paper magic. Have yourself a great day.